Everyone is freaking out about Vela Bay's potential launch price of between $2,700 per square feet to $2,800 per square feet. And then they say this is for OCR, which is really crazy, and this used to be a CCR pricing. And they're not wrong, because when we take a look at River Modern, which is in the heart of River Valley, right beside MRT, the developers actually got the land at 1420 PSF PPR, which is really very close to what we have for Vela Bay at 1388 PSF PPR. So the gap between the CCR and the OCR properties has almost vanished, and we are starting to see a little bit of a price convergence between the different regions. Is Vela Bay actually a trap, or this is a new reality we all have to start to accept? Today, I'm using my V.A.L framework to stress test the price and also show you the math that most agents won't. So stay tuned till the end of the video to find out. Over here, we have the V.A.L framework, V.A.L. There will be three components. The first one will be value, second one will be asset, and the last one will be liquidity. So throughout this video, I'll be expanding on the different parts of this framework, and then you guys can see how I actually analyze the property using my framework, and this will actually help you guys make a more informed decision. Alright, okay, so for this video, right, I'll be focusing mainly on the 4 bathers for this case study and also doing the various comparisons. So for those of you that require a specific bedroom type, or you want to find out more about how I actually guide my clients using this framework, you can WhatsApp me at 8484-9302. Alright, now back to the video. First, let's talk value, okay? And in my framework, value actually represents the future floor price. And in the first part I'll be touching on is the GLS Forecast. So over here, I have the land bid price for Vela Bay. SingHaiyi got it at 1388 PSF PPR, and the estimated break-even price after we factoring all the construction costs, marketing costs, estimated to be 2528 PSF PPR. So after we factor in the developer's profit margin at 10%, 50%, and 20%, we have about $2,700 per square feet all the way to $3,000 per square feet. So you can kind of gauge, right, this should be the range the SingHaiyi should be launching at. Just by looking at the prices from the developers, we can expect a launch price of between $2,700 all the way up to $3,000 per square feet. So right now, do you think for this particular plot, this pricing actually justifies the premium that East Coast have, or do you think this is actually overpriced? You can leave in the comment section what do you guys think. Now let's take a closer look on the master plan in the Bayshore area, okay? And then you can see at the bottom left we have is the Vela Bay's plot of land, and in comparison to what we are expecting coming up at Bedok South MRT, so this should be an integrated development, estimate about 1,200 residential units. So you can see the difference in terms of land size and the scale of it, right? Of course, both will be connected to MRT, but I think the one at Bedok South will be much more superior because of the land size also. When we look at these two plots together, very likely what we estimate for Bedok South okay, so you guys can think about it, right? If Vela Bay already can command 1388 PSF PPR, how much do you think this integrated plot at Bedok South MRT will sell for? Because if we just base off past trends, right, very likely it should be selling higher even though it's 1 MRT away. So I pulled up a recent example, right, that I think is going to be quite relevant to the Vela Bay plot. The first one will be Springleaf Residence, okay? So for those of you that's familiar, this project sold very well on the first day itself, and there's still a couple of units remaining. This one is at 905 PSF PPR, so definitely is quite a cheap plot considering it's right next to the MRT. But a lot of people say no school lah, it's ulu lah, but in the end it still sold very well. And the break-even price we're looking at is 1688 PSF PPR. We take about 1.5 years later, we have is the Upper Thomson Road Parcel A. So previously, a bit of background, right? This Parcel A at first was with the service apartment, but I think there was 0 bidders by the developers. Then in the end, the government, they changed the use of the site to purely residential and also commercial component. So now for WeHer, they actually bidded this land at 1062 PSF PPR. Different from Springleaf will be the commercial component, but other than that, they are side by side. They are right next to each other. This one will have a price difference of about 150 PSF PPR in terms of land bid price. And then when we go to the estimated break even, we are already looking at almost $400 per square feet difference difference and this is side by side. So definitely for Springleaf owners, we are looking at a lot of paper gains. Okay, so will the same thing actually happen for Vela Bay? It might not be so extreme because when Springleaf Residence, the plot was launched, it was in an era where the harmonization was still relatively new. So I think a lot of developers still don't really dare to bid for it because they don't know what is the market's appetite for it. But now I think the pricing more or less already, developers are more aggressive now. You can see some of the plots, so many bidders by the developers. Now I do expect Vela Bay, even at 1388, right, we should be expecting a higher PSF, maybe even 1005 PSF PPR based on the past trends, but I could be wrong. But as of right now, I still see this trend moving forward lah. Maybe you guys can let me know what you guys think. For those of you that's familiar with Bayshore right now, at the moment, right, it's just an empty plot of land, but when you look at the master plan, it is already full of residential zoning from HDBs, BTOs and parks, and also medical zoning. So don't be surprised like all these amenities come up in the next 5 to 10 years. So for the next part I'll be discussing on is the land bid prices for the upcoming launches. So for the parts highlighted in green, we have is Vela Bay 1388 PSF PPR, River Modern 1420 PSF PPR, Holland Link 1432 PSF PPR, Chuan Grove 1300 PSF range. So for all this, we should be expecting the launch this year, and then you can see we are already having these kind of prices. And for those highlighted in red, very likely they are going to be launching in 2027. First up we have is at Tanjong Rhu area 1455 PSF PPR, and then we have Telok Blangah Road by Kingsford 1326 PSF PPR, Dorset Road 1338 PSF PPR, Bukit Timah Road 1820 PSF PPR. So you already can see, right, just moving forward 1 year later, in terms of land bid prices, I really think they're massively different. But of course, I'm just taking out the higher ones. There's gonna be, of course, the cheaper prices in the OCR and the RCR region. But for those plots, I think definitely they are not as prime location as the ones we are talking about right now. Yeah, but just for comparison's sake, I'll be just looking at all this for 2027 as well. So with all these land bid prices already concluded, right, do you really think for Vela Bay, the developer SingHaiyi actually overbidded at 1388 PSF PPR? Or do you really think like there's still room for appreciation since the other lands in 2026 and 2027 already bidded for close to what we have at Vela Bay? Right now, under value, the next component will be the lease reset part of the framework. So now starting off, we have Vela Bay. So this one, the lease left will be 99 years and estimated PSF launch, we are looking at $2,008 to $3,000 per square feet. Okay. And then next up, after going through the lease reset, we have the Bayshore. So the Bayshore, right, we have the lease left is 55 years. And then after doing a lease reset PSF using the latest transaction, we have is 2323 PSF. And then next up, we have Bayshore Park. Bayshore Park lease left is 66 years. And after going through the lease reset, the PSF we are looking at is 2365. Costa del Sol, lease left 70 years. Lease reset PSF 2940 PSF. Last but not least, we have Seaside Residences, and the lease left is 89 years. And then after the lease reset, the PSF we are looking at is 2966 PSF. When you look at immediate neighbors like Bayshore Park, the lease reset doesn't really justify the pricing that Vela Bay is actually paying. I think because what is remaining in the lease, it will significantly pull down the PSF during the lease reset. But when you look at even projects about 70 years left, right, let's say Costa del Sol, it will be a more accurate representation of the actual pricing after the reset. So Costa del Sol, we're looking at about 2940 PSF, whereas for Seaside, about 89 years left, also looking at almost $2,009 to $3,000 per square feet. So just based off these two newer developments, I would say Vela Bay is still fairly priced. But if you were to compare to Bayshore Park and also the Bayshore, both of which quite old already, we are looking at about $500 to $600 PSF gap. So why is this lease reset important? For me, right, and my clients, I usually use this to actually gauge whether the new launch is overpriced or actually you are still paying a fair price for it. Because because if the gap is too big after the lease reset, then I would really think the new launch very likely will be overpriced. On top of the lease reset framework, I also have found out a couple of case studies related to seaside residences and also Costa del Sol. I think why is this important is because a lot of Singaporeans, when they buy East Coast properties, right, they are paying for the East Coast view. So there will be a premium for the sea-facing units versus the non-sea facing units, and for those I already have the comparison of how much PSF you should pay for the sea-facing units versus non-sea facing units, and this is going to be quite relevant for Vela Bay itself. For clients that are looking purely for investment, you want to make sure you don't overpay and using solid data to guide your buying process. So for that, definitely with all my case studies, I'll be able to guide you guys to make the informed decision, especially for Vela Bay's purchase. Now moving on to the second part of the V.A.L framework, and this is also known as the asset. So this is kind of related to the physical characteristics of the property, and this will form the moat when you want to sell the property in the resale market next time. Usually for this component, which is livability, I'll be touching on the floor plan itself, but for Vela Bay, the developers hasn't released the floor plans yet. So for those of you that want a more detailed analysis on different floor plans, you also can feel free to reach out to me. These are the surrounding buildings near Vela Bay, and you can kind of tell which one is the higher developments, which one is the lower side. Right beside we have Costa del Sol, this will be 30 stories high, and then we have the Bayshore also at 30 stories high, and on the other side we have the low-rise apartments up to about 8 stories high, and of course on the left side we have is the East Coast Park. Over here you can see this is the site plan for Vela Bay, and the developers already take very good care to position the two towers, right, such that they maximize the sea views. So we have about 78% of the stacks having sea view, 17% having the low-rise view, and 5% having the pool views. And if you compare to its neighboring counterparts, you can really tell that the previous developers, they didn't really maximize all the stacks for sea view. Yeah, but moving on, the newer developments, of course the developer with access to consumer preferences and data, they would definitely know that for sea view there's a more preferred view. But of course you must take note, because it's sea view and the developers know that it's preferred, right, definitely they will load a premium for the sea facing units. So that's why like I mentioned just now, for the case studies that I have for Costa del Sol seaside residences, definitely they will help you to make a more informed decision and not overpay with regards to sea view versus low-rise view and pool view within Vela Bay itself. Okay, so this is a zoom-in version of the site plan itself. I estimate this should be a 4-bedder and a 4+ study in the 1,002 square feet range, but of course we don't have the exact confirmation yet. Yeah, and why I highlight these two stacks is because if you want to do the case study comparison, you need to take note that these two are going to be facing the seaside. So very likely to know what kind of pricing to pay, you have to do the comparison for the sea-facing units at Costa del Sol and seaside residences, because if you take the comparison that is non-sea facing, then definitely you will feel that this is overpriced. Just a mini announcement, right, I'll be starting a brand new Telegram group chat, SingHaiyi Property. So for those of you that's interested, you can feel free to scan the QR code to join. And the main purpose of this Telegram group chat channel is for me to also keep you guys up to date. Like for example, for Vela Bay, once the floor plans is up, I'll be able to blast it on the group chat, and for you guys to also have a fruitful discussion if you need to. And at the same time, right, during my research for my videos, if I come across any interesting data or good deals, I'll also be sharing in the group chat itself. For those of you that want to find out more, you can feel free to join the group chat, and I definitely welcome any feedback on how I can further improve and bring value to you guys. Now for the second part under asset, we have is the scale and density of the development. Okay, so starting off we have is Vela Bay. So this is 105,000 square feet of land, 515 units, and the density works out to be 205 square feet per unit. Okay, next up we have Costa del Sol, 425,000 square feet of land, 906 units, 470 square feet per unit. Bayshore Park, 994,000 square feet of land, 1083 units, 918 square feet per unit. The Bayshore, 414,000 square feet of land, 1038 units, 399 square feet per unit. Last but not least, we have Seaside Residences, 207,000 square feet of land, 843 units and 247 square feet per unit. When we take a look at all these comparables in the Bayshore East Coast area, right, definitely Vela Bay lose out in terms of scale and density, because across these developments, it is the most dense already, and at the same time it is the smallest plot land. So do take note, if you're comparing based on the land, all these Vela Bay is going to be a lot different even when we compare to the newest comparison, which is at Seaside Residences. So for the other people that's comparing the prices at Seaside Residences, it might not provide the full picture, because in the end you can see based on the density alone, right, Vela Bay is already a lot higher as compared to Seaside Residences, and on top of that, Seaside Residences, the land is about double of what we see at Vela Bay. So of course Vela Bay is gonna have all the basic needs, which is like tennis court, swimming pool, and all the various amenities. But look at the size of the swimming pool for Vela Bay versus Seaside Residences. There's a very stark difference. So for those of you that is buying the development for like facilities, the scale of the development, Vela Bay is not going to be the one that ticks those boxes. I would say Seaside Residences definitely provide a much more complete view in terms of the development size and the density of development as compared to Vela Bay. Okay, so now the last part for asset we have is the location part, alright? For this location itself, just now I already showed you the master plan, where are the areas marked out for residential, hospital and parks as well. Here you can see a deeper dive into it. You have upcoming BTOs, you got a total of 4 plots, alright? And then the other plots, we still don't know whether it will be BTO or it will be other private condominiums. And also you got the hospital plots and education, you got the future primary school. And then in the middle between the two BTO plots, right, you also have a park in between. So I think overall it's going to be quite interesting, because by the time Vela Bay actually TOPs in about 4 years time, very likely all this construction will already have been done, almost going to be reaching the TOP phase. And at the same time, you can see one MRT stop away, Bedok South MRT. You can also see that this is going to be an integrated transport hub. So definitely a lot of things coming up in the area itself. As for the schools surrounding Vela Bay right now, right, I think the more prominent ones should be all the playhouses, and also Temasek Primary School, Temasek Secondary School, and also Temasek Junior College. Of course, we won't know what is the future school coming up over there. That one we will have to wait for government's announcement. But either way, you can see right now, if it's not start the construction yet, very likely you still need maybe another 10 years to see what is the school coming up over there. For those of you that is aiming for the green spaces, right, you can see Vela Bay, we are at a location that is prime for the East Coast Park in terms of lifestyle and all that. And for the rest staying in D15, very likely if you want this kind of lifestyle, you still need to go towards ECP side to actually experience all this, because it's all concentrated in the area. Alright, so now we have the last component of the V.A.L Framework, liquidity, which is also the exit strategy. In the first part I'll be covering is the supply and demand for this area itself. Over here you can see for the past 1 year, 4 bedroom types, right, and within 1 km of Bayshore MRT, we have a total of 6 projects with 26 past transactions. And then you can see for the 4 bedders, the range from 980 square feet all the way to 2,200 square feet, and the quantum range is between 1.3 million all the way to 3.7 million. So I would say in terms of quantum, right, and also the range of sizes, what we have at Vela Bay, if estimate about 1,002 square feet, we should be looking quite a decent entry size and also quantum in this area. Later I'll touch on this in the next part, yeah, but just bear with me, this is already the transacted prices here. And we have 9 resale projects with 36 listings. So of course there could be a couple of duplicates here and there, but the sizes here range from 1,300 all the way to 3,700 square feet, and the price asking is from 1.99 million all the way to 7.44 million. So definitely very impressive, because if this area you already have this kind of people asking for this kind of prices and transacted at this kind of quantum, I would say for the units, if they are priced correctly at Vela Bay, definitely it will look quite attractive in terms of quantum. Okay, but here based on supply demand, I would also say it's quite impressive, because you still have 26 past transactions for 1 km within Bayshore MRT. Of course, if you want to look closer towards Bayshore, that side, right, you can feel free to WhatsApp me at 84849302, because I can help you shorten the search to maybe 500 meters within Bayshore MRT. That will maybe give you a clearer indicative on what is the actual pricing around there. For the next part of the liquidity, we have is quantum gap. Over here you can see, right, majority of the developments I selected are the bigger ones. So for the smaller developments, like the more boutique ones below 100 units or like 200 plus unit range, I took those out because I don't think that would be a fair comparison towards Vela Bay in terms of PSF and quantum. So I think these few projects will be a better representation of what we see here. For this part, I'll be using the latest 4-bedroom transactions for each of these condos, right? Then you can kind of see where Vela Bay actually stands. Okay, for the first one we have is Seaside Residences. The quantum transacted is at 4.4 million. So this is a 1733 square feet unit. And then you can see for Vela Bay, the comparison I'm using is 1002 square feet. Estimate PSF is about 2009, and the quantum actually stands at 3.48 million. So of course the size difference is a lot, but when we take into consideration the quantum, right, we are also looking at almost a $1 million quantum difference. So definitely for those of the people, the budget a bit tighter, below the $4 million mark, then I think Vela Bay could be a good fit for you. So next up we have is Costa del Sol. This is transacted at 2.92 million. So for this Costa del Sol unit is at 1475 square feet. Very likely, I think if you account for the AC ledge harmonization, all this, for Vela Bay, the unit, right, it should be very similar size to what we see at Costa del Sol, because you still need to account for also the bay windows, all this. I think overall it will be a closer representation. So for this we also have about 500k gap, and for Vela Bay versus Bayshore Park will be about 700k quantum gap, and then the Bayshore versus Vela Bay will be looking at 1.3 million quantum gap. So I think in terms of the quantum gap, it's still going to be fairly priced when we look at the similar size at Seaside Residences and Costa del Sol. But of course, to the older developments at Bayshore Park and the Bayshore, you also have to factor in renovation costs really, because those are really very old. I think for my clients, I've heard of them that they took a look at the units there. Very likely, if you want to do a full renovation for like a 1,004-1,005 square feet unit, you still need a cost of about 300 to 400,000 to really make the unit very nice again. So I think all these costs you still need to factor into the development or the unit that you are potentially considering. Alright, so what is the conclusion using the V.A.L framework? Okay, so based on the first part, value, I definitely think based on the Lease Reset PSF and also the GLS Forecast, I would say Vela Bay is actually fairly priced in terms of PSF and also the upcoming launches PSF. Under the next component, which is asset, I would say for livability and location, there's a lot of things to look forward to, because I think the layout is going to be very efficient, and also there's a lot of transformation coming up in this Bayshore area. So definitely those two boxes are checked. But for me, in terms of the scale and density of the development, I think Vela Bay is going to be one of the weaker ones in this entire East Coast area. Maybe you can let me know in the comment section, but for me, I think in the site plan itself, it's not going to be number one here. So for the last component, liquidity, I would say supply and demand for the East Coast area, especially the 4-beders, definitely still very strong, and you see very high quantum already being transacted in the area. Also the second part, which is quantum gap, I still see very good entry price for Vela Bay, because Seaside Residences, they are actually the ceiling in the entire area. So I'm not too worried, since I'm a newer development and I'm entering into the East Coast area, being newer but still lower quantum than Seaside. And at the same time, you can see like Costa del Sol being a much older owner development still having not that much of a gap from Vela Bay, so definitely I think that's a plus point for Vela Bay as well. Overall, I definitely think Vela Bay is still quite strong in terms of the V.A.L framework. So the last part will be more of the unit selection based on the views, the layouts, quantum gap, and also the walkaway price and PSF for Vela Bay. I think this will be all very important for those of you that's looking at Vela Bay, so I'll be looking forward to hear from you guys. Alright, so that's it for today. If you like my video so far, you can feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And also for those of you that want a one-to-one consultation, you can feel free to WhatsApp me at 8484-9302. Alright, bye!